And as I've told my UMBC small group, the past is gone. And the future is before us. And what do they have in common? Neither of them are reality. Only the present is reality. And Jesus is I am. He says, I am. We must live now. If you want to have joy, you must live now. That is the reality that Jesus offers us. Secondly, according to John, we must, in order to build joy one layer at a time, we must not only have the reality of Jesus Christ, the resurrected Son of God, we must have the right companions. Now, this is integral, guys. You got to hear me here, because we live in a very communal society. We, as Christians, we understand, unlike the previous generation, that you can't grow alone. Know what I mean? You take a branch and you take it off the tree and you throw it on the ground, that branch ain't bearing no fruit, like Jesus said in John 15. If a man remains in me and I in him, he will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. So the Bible says that the church is a body, right? And it's like an organic plant. And we have understood that if I try to live the Christian life apart from the church, if I try to live the Christian life apart from my friends, I cannot grow. I cannot grow. I cannot increase. So the second layer or second layer of foundation that I want to talk about is choosing the right companions. And what I wrote was, our spiritual journey is joyful when it is shared with other Christians. You know why pastors have so much joy? Hopefully. You know why I have so much joy this afternoon? Because I get to share my life with endless amounts of people, including you guys. A spiritual journey is joyful when it is shared with other Christ followers, other Christians. I know when John says that in verse 5, he says, this is the message we have given you. He says in verse 4, we are writing these things so that our joy may be complete. Our joy may be complete. Now you think about what completes John. What completes us as a church, as Christians? Why do we have small group on Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever day? Why do we do that? Why do we gather every Sunday? Why do we congregate? Yeah, to socialize, no doubt. That's cool. I don't mind that. But the real reason that we congregate is what the Bible calls fellowship. And I know we say that word very loosely in the church. But what does fellowship mean? Fellowship means setting aside private interests and desires and joining in others for a common purpose. Let me say that one more time. Fellowship in its deepest essence is setting aside private interests and desires and joining in with others for common purpose. Yes, most of us in here are Korean. Most of us in here are about the same age. But we still have different preferences and affinities. But in order to have fellowship on Sundays in our small group, we have to set aside these idiosyncrasies to funnel into one common purpose, and that's to love Jesus Christ and to love others. That is the reality of church. That is what Jesus died for. When Jesus was on that cross, what did he see? What do you think he saw? He saw you. He saw me in deep connection, in wondrous worship. But in order for us to find this, we must choose the right companions on this journey. Think about the friends you have in your life right now, guys. Are any of them dispensing God's goodness and joy in your life? Many of our relationships are fixated upon infatuation, superficiality, recreation, parties, fun, you name it. As some of you guys know, my roommate and my friend is Sam Choi. And yes, he does get on my nerves. And yes, I don't like him all the time. But it is our common joy in the Lord that keeps us together. Do you have that? Because if you do not have a friend that you can find joy with in the Lord, then you do not have any friends. It is a shame that sometimes the only person you can tell about your joyful spiritual experience is your pastor. And I know you know what I'm talking about. When something enlightening or amazing happens in your walk with God, you have nobody to tell because you know nobody will share your joy. What a blessing it would be if all of us could call a friend, even one friend, any time of the day, and tell them what the Lord is doing in our lives. Or say, I cracked open the scriptures, son, and I saw this passage, and I was blown away. And it helped me realize I can't keep doing that sinful activity. And that your friend would share that joy with you. I guess my cell phone went off. But that's the kind of joy that John is talking about, that it can only be made complete in true, authentic fellowship. You guys understand me? I need you to lift me up when I am struggling, and I need to lift you up when you are struggling. That is a community of joy. And that's something that we need to think about on our spiritual journey. Do we have friends? Do we have people that we can count on, that we can call spiritual friends that bring us joy? Because if we do not, then I believe that joy will seep out before we know it. Lastly, but not least, in order to build joy in our lives, one layer at a time, it means not only having the right foundation, Jesus Christ, not only having the right companions, people who love Jesus Christ, it means having the right goal. Some of our goals as Christians are very, very misconstrued. They're very inaccurate. Some of the goals in our Christian life is, some of our parents' goals, if some of you guys realize, is I send my kids to church because I don't want them to have sex or do drugs or sell drugs or become like somebody I saw on TV on 5 o'clock news. That cannot be the goal of your Christianity. That cannot be the goal of your joy. The goal of your joy, our spiritual journey of joyful living, there's only one way to experience constant joy in your life. And if you forget the entire sermon, just remember this, okay? There's only one way as a Christian to experience constant joy. It is to be constantly transformed. A lot of us are not experiencing the joy, the abundant life that Jesus talks about in the Bible because you haven't changed. You saved, okay, you know Jesus, you're going to heaven if I shoot you in the head tonight. But, not that I would, but if somebody shot you in the head tonight or you got cancer, you're going to heaven, most deaf. But you don't have joy in your life because you haven't changed since 1999. You ain't changed since 2002. You ain't changed since 2003. I don't know when you became a Christian, but ever since that point, you thought it was over. You thought as soon as you become a Christian, that's it. I'm going to heaven, blah, 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 and that's straight. But the problem with that mindset, one, it's not real. It's not reality. Two, it steals your joy. You know what brings me joy relationally? Some of you guys know my brother and I are not friends. We do not get along. But, what brings me joy in my relationship with him is that every year, I know it sounds funny, but we have one more conversation than we did the previous year. And it might not be like a huge metamorphosis, but it's something that is changing in our relationship. And every year I age, I understand why he doesn't believe in Jesus, why my parents don't believe in Jesus, and why he doesn't always like me. That kind of transforming experience is what brings me joy in spite of the struggles that are before me. That there is change in our relationship. This is my second year at Bethany. Yes, there has been a lot of struggles here, but the joy that I have is that I see some of you guys transforming before my very eyes.